So, sorry, there's quite a lot to get through in Thai, so in Thai we say did wrong, carried away. So I'd more or less like to repeat what I just said in Thai, so if you're bilingual, then you can have this will reinforce what I'm trying to say. So it's really summarizing and revising the underlying principles of philosophy of the school, and it's based upon my understanding of Buddhism as being the ultimate or the completely comprehensive education system, the most comprehensive education system that the world has ever known. So in that sense it's a very different kind of religion to the monotheistic traditions that grew up in the Middle East. And Buddhism cannot be understood as a belief system. There are no Buddhist dogmas to be accepted and as a measure of whether you're a true Buddhist or not. But the commitment is to education of every aspect of one's life in a system which is, to use a modern phrase, holistic. And it's my contention that although the education system devised, taught by the Buddha and transmitted and taught by his disciples over the past 2,000 more years, has as its ultimate goal liberation or called enlightenment, that the underlying structure is one which is adaptable and appropriate for an education system which is aimed at giving children the best possible preparation for life in the world. So the Buddhist teachings as an education system are often summarized by the Buddha himself by taking what's called the Eightfold Path, the most traditional, the most fundamental of the presentations of this system, and holding it down to three trainings or forms of education. And the Pali word is sikha, or in Thai is siksa. So it's a tri-sikha, so three kinds of education. There's the education of sila, samadhi and panya. So sila is morality, and samadhi, I'll leave that one for panya, usually translates as wisdom. Now, the word samadhi is one that many of you may have heard before and be familiar with, but there's a word of caution here. The meaning of this word is dependent on context. When in the context of a meditation practice, the word samadhi refers specifically to a state of clarity and stability when the mind is free of its usual preoccupations and obsessions. And it's samadhi which provides the basis for development of insight and wisdom. But in the threefold training or education, samadhi is an umbrella term, and it means all the various means, skillful means, by which we seek to reduce and eliminate the defilements or negative mental states within the heart, and all the means by which we create, promote and bring to maturity all the positive or kusala mental states. So samadhi here is sort of given pride of place. it's given the honour of the name, just as if you have a big band and you give the big band the name of the sort of the leader, sort of the Glenn Miller band or something. So Glenn Miller would be nothing without the band, and samadhi would be nothing without all the other virtues and practices. So because in the first years of this Buddhist education movement, or Buddhist, what now called Buddhist wisdom movement, it was often presented as an education system based upon sila, samadhi and panya. I was dissatisfied with this because the initial reaction from most people would be, it sounds like monastic, or it's like you would want preparing kids to become monks and nuns, which is of course not the case. So I used an alternative formulation. It's by no means as common, but it is also taught by the Buddha himself. And so in this formulation, the first one of sila, or morality, is divided into two. And the quality of samadhi is now called the cultivation of mind, or heart. So the four kinds of development or cultivation that the Buddha taught, in other words, the four kinds of education, are firstly the education of the relationship of the human being to the material world, secondly the relationship of the human being to the social world, third the education of the heart and mind, and fourth the education of the wisdom faculty. So these four areas are to be developed in harmony, in harmony. They can't be separated from one another, and they impact on each other and support each other. Now, all the academic subjects which are compulsory for children in this country can all be included under those four headings. Most of the physical sciences would be under the first heading, most of the social sciences the second, and so on. But it also allows us to fill in and to supplement it with all those areas in which most education systems are lacking. So I'll just go through these four headings in brief. The first, the relationship of the human being to the material world, and that begins with that area of the material world in which we take direct responsibility, meaning our own bodies. So teaching children to bring attention and awareness to their relationship to food, bringing awareness into consumption of food. Now this isn't meaning adoption of any particular diet, and diets become a huge obsession for many people, become object of great contention. And I'm just a slight digression, I was 17 years old, sort of on the tail end of the hippie trail, the hippie movement. We were going overland to India, and so there were all these really kind of laid back hippies sitting around smoking dope, and everyone is yeah, whatever, that kind of thing. And the only thing that I ever saw would really bring up a lot of emotion in these kind of people is talking about food and diets and vegetarianism and veganism, and suddenly these people, from being laid back, it's just suddenly, no, got to eat like this, and no, lacto-vegetarian, no, so I'm very suspicious of those kinds of obsessive tendencies that can focus on food. The Buddha has very simply said, eat food which is good for you and eat it in the right amount. That's the most important thing, and how you work that out for yourself, that's up to you. But don't eat things that are harmful to your body, and give things that give your body the energy and nutrition it needs, and don't eat too much or don't eat too little. Very simple, but difficult for most people. We have incredible developments in technology, and yet the basic ABCs of human existence we still haven't got right. In Britain, the National Health Service is almost bankrupt because dealing huge increase in costs caused through obesity. 2 million people now with, I think, with diabetes 2 through obesity. Huge problems because of the way we eat. So it's not a small matter. Secondly, rest. How much sleep do we need? How much rest do we need? Again, what's this got to do with Buddhism? Well, if you haven't sorted these basic things out, there's no way you're going to be able to develop any of the really more profound Dhammas. Sleeping, how much sleep do you need? Have you ever done any experiments? How would you know? How do you know when you slept too much? How do you know when you slept too little? If we bring attention, it's not difficult to work that out. We sleep too little, get sleepy, our work suffers, our relationships suffer. Sleep too little, sleep too much. I'll tell you one sign you sleep too much, dreaming. If you dream a lot, particularly in the morning before you wake up, it's usually because your body wants to get up and it's telling you you've had enough, and you say, no, I want some more, and so all that energy goes into dreaming. Irritable. If you get really sort of irritable and snappy when you get up, that's often because you've slept too much and you're confused. So find out. This is the object of study in Buddhism. How much sleep do I need? How much is the right amount for me? And third, exercise. How much, what kind of exercise do I need? So basic physical things. From there, the next sort of concentric circle of interest and influence is our relationship to our possessions. What's our relationship to money? What's our relationship to technology? What's our relationship to the internet? Do we have a functional or a dysfunctional relationship to our smartphone? How much time do we spend on Facebook and online and all these things? There's no hard and fast rule of should and shouldn't, do and don't, but it's something that we have to be willing to look at and be honest with ourselves about, and disciplined. Because if we're not disciplined with these things, how can you possibly expect your children to be? You have to. This is one area. It's a difficult area where you really do have to be a good example. Is it possible for you to turn everything off? For a certain period every day. He's saying that we're teaching children all the time. Often the things that they pick up and remember the most are the things that we don't want them to remember. And if anytime you're spending time with your children and then you abandon them to receive a telephone call or to an email, you're giving them a message that these things are very important and more important than they are. Expanding from that, our relationship to the environment, and of course that's a huge topic and one which we're talking about a lot these days. So maybe I can, given the shortage of time, I'll leave that one. But we've gone through a long period of creating karma in our relationship to the material world, and now, unfortunately, we're rapidly approaching the reckoning. And we really need to give a lot of thought to that. By the way, I just as a interesting point that on the topic of diet, don't consider vegetarianism as should be compulsory, or to be a good Buddhist you have to be a vegetarian. But I just was informed recently, very interesting, that if you want to reduce your carbon imprint on the world, giving up eating meat is more effective than stop driving a car. So if anybody wants to follow that up, I think it's quite an interesting line of inquiry. Second area is an area of our relationship to the social world. So this is in the Buddhist area, this is the whole area of morality. And just to, again, to make a few salient points about the rather unique vision of morality in Buddhism. We don't have an idea or a belief in a creator God or a deity who lays down rules which human beings should keep and are rewarded for keeping and punished for flouting. In Buddhism we start off with the recognition that the way that we behave towards each other has a critical effect on our happiness and the quality of our life, and that we have influence, we have the ability to make choices about how we behave, how we speak to those around us, and that morality is, in Buddhist sense, the wisest way of living in the world, the way which is most conducive to creating communities that are safe, kind, warm, which value its members, respect its members, in which people can give and receive love safely. The reasoning behind this is that we have the ability, and this phrase unfortunately is rather cliche one, we have the ability to say no. In other words, we can decide, I will not do something that we would really rather like to do. And this is something that we are born with, and it's an ability, it's a gift, if you like, that we seek to make use of in this area of education. So we recognize, looking at the human mind, we recognize the truth that we cannot forbid the arising of negative emotions through an act of volition or an act of will. In other words, we can't decide that from this day forward I want to be a kind and loving person and never be aggressive, never be angry with anybody. That's totally unrealistic, because emotions and these kinds of deep-seated habits and insecurities and so on do not respond to an act of will or that kind of decision. What we can do is to say that, is to make commitments to the people that we live with. Say, I still get angry every now and again. I love you, but sometimes you make me so mad, you make me so angry. I'm sorry, it's the way I am. I'm working on it. But in the meantime, I promise you that no matter how angry I am, I will never abuse you, physically or verbally. And through that act, you give one of the most beautiful gifts that a human being can give. What is a more sublime and beautiful gift than the gift of safety? For people around you to know that they're safe, that you would never hurt them. That's such a beautiful thing to be able to give others. And so the precepts, the 5 precepts, are commitments that we take upon ourselves voluntarily. We decide to have boundaries for our conduct, and it's absolutely essential. It has to be voluntary. You have to see the value of it and make the commitment to it, and then using these precepts as a means of grounding yourself in the present moment, the way that you maintain a constant contact, or you don't lose your bearings in this crazy, mixed up, confusing world to a dangerous degree, is that by taking on these 5 precepts and bearing them in mind, and for them to act as pegs for mindfulness, objects of mindfulness. Keeping precepts is an education, it's a training of conduct. And each precept is something that we bear in mind and bring us back to the present moment, allow us to wake up from our negative and unwise habits in daily life. They create feelings of safety and warmth and trust in families and communities, and they reduce to a considerable extent the amount of guilt and self-aversion and self-hatred even, which so many people carry around within them. So this is the bridge towards the inner education. We're laying the foundations in the world of creating the optimum conditions for this inner development. So in an education system, apart from teaching children and adults as well how to view precepts as tools for education of conduct, we're also teaching communication skills. We're also teaching children to take an interest in and feel responsible for trying to help to alleviate the suffering in the world and to try to do good things in the society in which we live. But this is development of our relationship to the social world, trying to do good in the world in whatever small way we can. Third area, to repeat then, it's history, geography, social sciences, all these academic topics can then be treated within this framework. The third area is the training of the heart, and here the rule of thumb or the principle is all the ways in which we can, one, take care of our heart and prevent the arising of unwholesome mental states or negative mental states. Secondly, developing tools to deal effectively with negative mental states that have already arisen. Third, developing tools, developing an understanding of how to create within ourselves, how to bring into our hearts all those wholesome virtues and positive mental states that have not yet arisen. And fourthly, how to nurture and to further develop any positive mental states that have already arisen. For those of you who studied any of the Buddhist texts, you'll realize that's a formulation of what's called right effort in the Eightfold Path. Now this understanding of the training of the heart is one that can bridge this gap which many people feel between what you do when you're sitting with your eyes closed and what you're doing in daily life. Because through this framework, then you can see that it's the same thing. If you're sitting in meditation, you begin your meditation, what's the first thing that you're trying to do? Prevent the arising of the hindrances of desire and aversion and dullness and laziness and sleepiness and agitation and doubts and so on. It's maintaining awareness on an object in such a way as to prevent the arising of those negative mental states. It's very difficult to do, and therefore we also need to be developing tools and techniques to deal with the negative mental states that have arisen. And meditation is developing our ability to deal with depression, deal with anxiety, deal with all the negative mental states which affect all of us so often and so painfully. But then also making the effort to develop to bring into the heart all kinds of wholesome virtues and dhammas that are not there, particularly mindfulness and peace and joy and compassion and loving kindness and stability and clarity and so on. And then to the extent to which those virtues, those qualities already arisen, we're trying to find ways, learning how to take care of them, not allow them just to fritter away, take care of them and to take them on to an even higher level. So that's what we're doing in meditation. In daily life, we can see what we're doing the same way. Let's say, a very simple example, you put your glasses down and you don't know where you put them. I wonder if anybody's ever done that. I have. So what happens is you put your glasses down and then where did I lose you? And then you're getting really, and then you start worrying about the time. I'm going to be late for this, I'm going to be late for that, and then you start saying, oh, I'm so stupid. Every day I do this, and then it's all this kind of aversion. Here we go again. Just make this big drama out of not being able to find your glasses. That's how many people experience it. But with this practice, what I'm saying is, okay, what am I trying to do now? I want to find my glasses without allowing any negative mental states to arise. So how can I find my glasses and not get agitated, not get it all into this inner commentary and telling me how hopeless I am and how stupid I am. And so now you've got two goals. You've got one goal is to find your glasses, and the other goal is to take care of your mind while you're finding your glasses. And then maybe it takes you 5 minutes before you find your glasses, but instead of saying 5 minutes wasted, I'm just feeling really lousy, you actually feel, wow, you always feel like you made a profit, something really, really special happened there. I did it. I found my glasses and I was able to keep a calm mind the whole time. Actually, it probably helped me to find them more quickly as well. So you can turn all these daily challenges and difficulties and things that often makes, here we go again, into one of these kinds of efforts. Or you're going to a meeting and today you're going to meet this person, you really don't like them. Every time you meet them, they're so selfish, they don't listen, they're aggressive, they're this and that, and oh dear, today I've got to, and you're miserable before you even get to the meeting, and so you set yourself up for the very suffering that you prefer to avoid. So here you say, what's going on today? Okay, I'm going to go to that meeting. What are the kind of unwholesome dhammas that tend to come up when I usually get really irritated with that guy, and I get so upset, I'm just so this and so that. Okay, today let's see if I can sit through a whole meeting and not get full of aversion towards that person. And so that's now becomes a goal, and it's kind of interesting now. It's actually not a burden anymore. And then if I do get angry, what should I do? What could I do? Well, just breathe deeply, relax my body, or if it gets too much, maybe just go out to the toilet and just watch my breath on the toilet for a few minutes and come back in. Or, just whatever you think would work, and try it out. And then what kind of positive dhammas could I develop today? Well, I could patience, that's a good one. Learn to listen. To listen to someone I don't like or I don't agree with, but to keep my mind level and equanimous and fair, without allowing my own prejudices and dislike to affect my judgment. Developing listening skills, finding right time and place when to speak, when to keep quiet, and so on. So when we see actually in this view. Although how it plays out in daily life might seem very dissimilar to what you're doing when you're meditating, actually it's a continuum. And if you have that feeling it's a continuum, when you come back to the meditation posture, you don't feel, oh, now I've got to sort of start all over again, but you're feeling that you're carrying on from where you left off this morning or yesterday. Fourth area is the area of wisdom, cultivation. Wisdom is like the jewel in the Buddhist crown, if you like, and it's the ultimate virtue or Dhamma to be developed, understanding the way things are. In a school system, starting off and wanting to teach basic critical and creative thinking skills, and being able to recognize logical fallacies, being able to think well, but also with the meditation and also being able to not becoming addicted to thinking or identifying with thought and being attached to thought, knowing when to put thought down, but also being able to think systematically and being able to recognize the faults and the habits of thought which stimulate negative emotions, and being able to deal with deep-lying negative emotions by recognizing the particular obsessions or assumptions that are conditioning them. For instance, if you have a basic thought, I'm hopeless, I never succeed at anything, for instance, and then in your daily life, every time you have some small failure, then here we go again. It's a proof. Yeah, it's really true. Yeah, I'm hopeless. But then with wisdom development, you're analysing thought and you're recognising this, and you're saying, well, is that really true? And do I always fail at everything, really? So questioning and bringing the thinking process into focus, and learning to develop systematic discursive meditations. So meditation is, sometimes meditation you don't want to think at all, right? Meditating on the breath. There are also meditations where you use the thinking mind systematically. Sometimes these can be more effective and more powerful than the non-thinking meditations, or at least they can perform a preliminary for them. When you've got a lot of thinking energy in your mind just doesn't want to be quiet. You say, okay, you can think, but think on this topic. So it can be a loving kindness meditation, investigation of the physical body, reflections on death, reflections on conditionality, or there's so many different discursive meditations. And particularly if you allow a discursive meditation, and one which brings up a lot of positive emotion, that can be a very powerful one. So if you're a Buddhist, just create like a movie. Just imagine you get up really early in the morning and you put everything, you make this beautiful food, and you go to this forest, and in the forest there's the Buddha. There's the Buddha and all the great disciples. And you crawl up and you put your food in the Buddha's bowl, and Venerable Sariputta's bowl, and Venerable Mahamoggallana's bowl. And if you're a Buddhist, like a Thai Buddhist, and something like that can just, you can be in tears within a few seconds. And just this incredible, powerful religious emotion can suppress hindrances and agitation in a very powerful way. And then you can put that kind of imaginative, creative kind of meditation, discursive meditation down, and then go into the non-discursive meditation to take the mind to a more profound sense of calm. The highest forms of this wisdom development are analysis and recognition and penetration of impermanence and the unsatisfactory or unfulfilling nature of impermanent experience, and the flowing non-independent self nature of reality. These are things obviously not expecting school children to understand, but there's a way of recognition of, for instance, of uncertainty. Things change all the time, that things are unpredictable. If that's presented in a wrong way, it can make children feel insecure. If it's projected in a right way, then there's that sense of flexibility and willingness to adapt and to make some profit, or to profit from changing phenomena, being free of attachment. So there are many profound teachings that can be presented